Today I am going to be trying to replace our kitchen sink basket assembly. When the plumber put it in initially when we moved in, it's 3 years. It was just 3 years on the 1st of March. It's always been crooked like this, and I would say the last several months to a year it's been leaking, and we have some days off coming up here, so we decided that it's time to tackle this project. If we are up for it, we're also going to replace this sink that never sat in here very well, or the faucet, I mean, also installed by a plumber. So we're gonna see if we can improve on the kitchen sink today. We picked up a new kitchen sink basket assembly. Comes with all the parts that you need to replace it. Plumber's putty, a sink drain wrench, one of these.
Channel lock.
One of these channel locks, a channel lock, a needle nose pliers. There are specific tools that you can use to hold your drain in place. It's like a 4-prong post that sits in here, but since this is hopefully a one-time thing, we're just gonna use a needle nose. I have a water catching basin down there, and then the new faucet if we get to it. Like and subscribe. All right, so as you can see, it is pretty grimy. It shows the signs of it dripping for a few months. It's currently dripping right out here. The first step is going to be to disconnect this main drain, which, there we go, I can just do it by hand. This can also be, this might look a little different. See what to loosen just to move it over. So I'm just gonna do that and tighten it again so it stays out of our way. All right, so now we're gonna use this tool to hold on to this lock nut that's here. And I'm gonna have, I might be able to do it both by myself, obviously having one person do one job, and then I'm gonna have Zach hold this so I can see what I'm doing. So you're gonna wanna hold on to this piece here so it's stationary, so you can get this lock nut off. All right, so you're gonna wanna turn it clockwise from looking at it underneath the sink here. All right. This whole part is going to come up through the sink. All right, so this is the old sink basket. I'm just going to put it down here for now. I'm going to go get some paper towel and we're going to clean out all of the putty. You want to make sure that this lip area is perfectly clean for the next new version. You want to clean up all this old putty before you put in, I'm just going to drop it down, before you put your new basket in. You want to make sure it's free of all the old putty. Just gonna clean this up a little bit because it really was getting kind of gross. So the next step is going to be to grab your plumber's putty. I just picked all of this stuff up at Menards because that's what's local to me. I think this should be about enough. And then you're just going to roll it into a snake. It should be long enough. Your goal is going to be just to get around this new basket. Okay, so as you can see, this one comes with a metal connector, which our pipe has a plastic connector, so I'm guessing we're not going to need that. I'm going to take this new lock nut off. And then the new sink basket is going to come with a rubber washer, and then this, it looks like paper, but it is a special fiber, I believe, and you don't want to get rid of it. You're going to keep that together. And then you just kind of work backwards. So we're going to start by putting our putty around this edge. So it just goes around. We're going to drop it in. And unlike the first time it was installed, I'm going to make sure that it is centered. I'm going to push it down a little bit just to make sure I get it in the right spot. You can see that there's putty starting to squish out around. And now you're going to take your two washers and your new lock nut. And it goes lock nut, paper looking washer, rubber looking washer. Take this putty off. And this is where we're going to use our wrench. Looking at it, I feel like I'm going to try to turn it a few more times and really make sure that it's centered. It just looks like there's a little bit of a gap there. So you really want to make sure that the putty squished out evenly on all sides. That's going to tell you that you got a good seal with your putty. And now I'm going to hook up the pipes again. We'll run some water and just check for leaks at this point. Okay, so earlier I had loosened the trap joints to get this into place. So now I just need to, oh, I loosened that up, that's why it's dripping. There we go. So I'm just gonna tighten this by hand. And then because I was moving everything around, I'm gonna just check all of our connections and just tighten those by hand. And now we're gonna run some water and see if it leaks. So no immediate leaks, in order to fully test it, you really should fill your sink up halfway with water with the stopper in it. That way the pressure of the water will really test all those connections in the plumber's putty to make sure that it did in fact make a full seal. And I think we can replace the faucet while we're at it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we decided we're gonna replace the faucet right away. For this, you really don't need any special tools. 2 wrenches should really get you through every step. The first thing you want to do is find your water off and on and turn the water lines off. So I've already turned these off. And then the next thing you want to do is find where those water lines connect to your sink lines. There's one here and one here. You're probably going to have 2, one for hot, one for cold, and you're going to use your wrenches to loosen those up. I pre-loosened them just so I can film a little bit easier here. There's going to be a little bit of water in there, so either put a bucket in your workspace or just throw a towel down there. So get those out of your way. Then you're going to work your way up further. See how this works. And then there's going to be like a main channel that's metal, and it's connected to the faucet, and you're going to loosen, again pre-loosened here, but you would use your wrenches. You're going to take this off. It's going to fall. Okay, here it comes. And then if you follow that channel further up, there's another bolt, and that is what holds the faucet onto your sink base here. So I'm gonna have to loosen this, and then that whole assembly can come off and we can put the new one on. So I'm just gonna use a wrench to try to figure out how to get up here. Once it's loosened, you should ideally can take it off by hand. I think it's because our current faucet is tipping. I think it's pinching it, so I'm gonna have somebody hold it up there, and then I should be able to loosen it. Yep. So if you're having troubles, that might be something that would help you too. And this is a really long threaded thing. Holy moly. Almost there. 12 hours later. It seems like the whole thing needed to be unscrewed. And then there's this plastic piece. The last step before you can pull the old faucet assembly out through the top is to take this weight off. This is the weight that returns the sprayer nozzle back to its home base, so it's not always hanging loose. This one just is screwed together with 2 screws, so pretty simple to take off. And then that's going to slide this bracket off, and now the whole unit can come up through the top. I'm going to take this and just go set it aside. And the top, this part of the old one came off really easily. This is what's puttied down. So And same as with the sink basket, you're gonna wanna clean off all this old putty. All right, so our new sink came with this cover that has a foam ring around it. So this one does not use plumber's putty. Each sink or faucet probably comes with its own very detailed instructions, so just follow whatever your instructions say. Our last one obviously used putty, but this one doesn't. So I'm just going to center that on there and then take a look at all of our parts that we have here. So we're going to have, this is the part where the weight is going to be connected to. This one came with a soap dispenser, which is great because for the last 3 years we've just had a hole here that we've covered up with a spray bottle. So it'd be good to have something in that place. I imagine for the most part we're just going to be kind of putting things back together similarly to how we took them apart. Here is our new faucet. I'm going to start by put the plate, the deck plate in its place. If you want, you can also install them without the deck plate if you have other things you want in those places. So I'm gonna feed all this through like so, and it fits right on this piece. It just kind of locks in. I think I'm gonna want it like this though, with the water on the right, like that.
It's already more sturdy than the last one.
It looks so nice. And then I'm gonna take these parts. It comes with a plastic washer, metal washer, and then this lock nut. This lock nut. I'm not a plumber, but I am pretty good at following directions, and I feel like most people are capable of doing things like this too. Feels good to fix things like this. I'm gonna take this down. This faucet came with its own tool, so I'll be able to just feed all the things through this and tighten it. First, you're gonna feed your washers and your lock nut up over everything. And you're gonna wanna catch all of these components. Okay. I'm gonna start just by hand tightening it a few turns to get it to stay in place. Okay. I'm gonna take this tool, do kind of the same thing. Hopefully this is the right side. I'm gonna save the tool for the end. Alright, so I've got it hand tightened at this point. I'm gonna make sure that the top faucet is straight. I can tell already that it's not. The deck plate is crooked. So that's about as tight as I can get it by hand. Okay, so I'm going to slide this off. So that's the lock nut I just tightened. Now that the faucet is in place and tight, I'm going to work on reconnecting the water lines and the spray nozzle. This spray nozzle is a little different than the one that I removed. I'm just gonna pop in here like that, and it locked. And then I'm gonna get the weight, put the weight on. Ouch. This faucet came with a clip and a weight, and they marked the hose with some tape on where it goes, and there's an arrow pointing up, so you want to make sure you have that where it goes. And then this is just gonna clip in, I think, or slide in.
Slides, yeah.
There we go. Okay, so there's our weight. And the very last thing to do under here is, that's where you could say underwear. That's a plumber joke. Is to reconnect your water lines. This tube here is labeled with a hot, so you're going to want to connect your hot line with that one and then your other line here, and they should just be universal. And screw back on. I'm going to start by doing it by hand, and then we'll have to get a wrench to tighten them. And then make sure that your cords aren't tangled, otherwise that's going to mess with your sprayer. Alright, so now I'm going to get a wrench and tighten these two. You're going to want to use another wrench to hold this tight while you're tightening that. I think that's as tight as I want to go with that. How do plumbers do this by themselves?
They curse a lot.
Oh. Now we can test the sink. Make sure all the water lines are working. Turn your water back on. Hope for the best. I'll keep a towel down there. Now we can also finally do this part, which seems pretty straightforward. This goes in here, again.
Threaded forever.
Threaded forever. Then that drops in. This is gonna screw up from the bottom. This and this go together.
Bob's your uncle.
And taking care of business after 3 years. So here's our threaded forever. Alright, so now we're going to want to make sure it's nice and straight.
Okay, that's good. You tightening it?
Alright. There's no water involved with that. Hand tighten should be fine. This drops in. This screws up from the bottom. I'm screwing, turning the whole thing. There we go. Is it still good?
I got it. Yep.
There. And then we can fill fill this with our dish soap. I think that's gonna be really nice. It'll make it fun to do dishes.